Hey YouTube, continuing brown bass week. I'm playing a guitar and having a look at this amp. This is a Supro Black Magic, which is a Jimmy Page's amp, apparently from Led Zeppelin 1, a 59 one. This is a modern. This is brand new. So it's kind of like old amps where I think you were meant to stand behind them, maybe. In fact, no, that's not. That's exactly. It's just basically because it's the combo version, isn't it? Yeah. No, the knobs are all upside down when you're looking at it from the top. But that makes sense because if you took it out and flipped it around and made it into a head, like the Sovtech, which isn't here at the moment, the valves would all point up the way, so it probably would make sense. Yeah. So, got two inputs. Input 1 and 2. Input 2, and then we've got volume 1, volume 2, tone, and then a tremolo circuit with speed and depth, and then on and off button. So I'm not really showing you that. I can't bother picking it up, but yeah. So I'm just going straight into it with the corker. It's not on. It's got a standby switch. Yeah. So 1,200 quid though. New. So not a cheapie. 12-inch Jensen speaker, 25 watts, so kinda not that different from my Orange on that respect. I think it's 30 watt, but I mean, you know, same thing, 30 watt 12-inch speaker, so totally giggable. So it doesn't have any sorts of gains or anything on it. I mean, this is, if I put the volume 2 down, put the volume, there's volume 1 up at like a quarter. I think if you want to get it to drive, you've got to turn it up. If I turn that down, turn volume 2 up. Humbucker. I suppose Telecaster would be British single coil. So that's volume 1 and 2 both up. I can hear a wee bit of Zeppelin. You think going on there? Be using the humbucker to single coil. Both single coil. I've never really. I did obviously buy a tremolo pedal at one point to see what it did. And actually, the first time I turned it on, it made me feel a bit sick. So half this amp is the tremolo thing on it. Well, you've got 3 knobs, 2 volumes and a tone, and then there's a switch to turn the tremolo on and off. But this you just turn the depth down. So basically, I wanted to make sure it was working. So if I just turn the depth, there's it quite fast and on. How fast does it go and how deep does it go? Let's say turn both knobs up to full. you meant to have it on subtly. Unlike the pedal I had, I don't think it was a Behringer one, I can't remember, it was a Bellcat one. It went to total extremes. The tremolo, you know, you could get to it literally just went boom, 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 you know. This one is kind of at maximum, it's still sort of usable, and at minimum, you can't hear it. It's just a wee bit. Maybe I do, at that sort of level. Turning the tone down to a quarter, see if that does anything. Tone up at 3/4. It can get quite harsh on the ear, but I think it's just because it's so loud. 25 watts is total just gig. Yeah, absolutely no bother at all. So that's me just going straight into it. What I'm going to try and do now is I'm going to run my pedal board into it just to see. I mean, it already sounds really lovely, and I'm sure my pedals could be altered to work it. And because the structure of it's a Class A, which is a more basic one than the Class AB or Class B. The wee Epiphone Valve Junior's a Class A, but I think a lot of these things, you know, count in with I mean, got no power. Why you not? Okay. Sounds a bit more boosted, but I think that's because my loop pedal's got a gain on it. So did it sound like that before? Start putting the pedals in. Tone back to the middle. It said somewhere that, well, I looked up, output 2 was a more versatile thing. I don't know. As opposed to, I think one's maybe a bit more boosted. I bet you the Joyo pedal just kicks it in a little bit. And humbuckers. In danger of it being a bit loud, and everything sounds better loud. And I feel because we've got two volumes, because there are two volumes, you should really be using both of them, shouldn't you? Obviously I've got reverb on now as well. Tremolo's still on. You can hear the tremolo when you turn it off. So that's the Joyo pedal. What does the Rat do? That tone volume, tone control's useful. Marvellous. It is. No, love it. I don't know if it's one I would actually... Obviously, the price is right, you go for these things. It's not one that would jump out at me. Really, it's like... It does seem a bit daunting not having very many knobs, but in saying that, the orange one doesn't have very many knobs either. And I generally, I'm looking through my amps just now to decide which... I've got more than I need. I've got a PV Valve King, I've got the orange TH30, and I've got that wee Laney, and I've got the Softtech, which I'm not going to sell. So I don't need 3 wee amps. This one kind of cuts in. This one being... I'm going to have to give it... The reason the Laney's out, I'm going to have to give it another shot. It's only got a 10-inch speaker in it, whereas this is a 12, as is the orange, as is the PV, which... It's totally giggable with a 1x12, no problem. But it's a 1x10. It's like, is it a wee bit wee? I don't know. I mean, I did do one gig with the Laney, but the sound guy was an arse. He kept telling me to turn it down. I had the thing running at about a quarter volume, and it's like fucking hardly on. And you keep telling me to turn it down, and then as soon as he started doing the gig, his vehicle assistant was up trying to turn it up, and it's like, fucking, if you just let me play it at the volume I was going to play, it would have been fine. I think, but it was mic'd up, so he wanted total control over it, and it's just like, that doesn't work. You know. Enough of that for a rant. Yeah, it's a bit, dare I say it, looks like it might get dirty quite quickly. It's very white and silvery, and if the angle's right, that's actually quite dazzling. And it's like white, and it's kind of got it's a very new looking, not that I'm saying it doesn't look fragile, it just looks like it, you know, even like a Marshall, you can kind of drop it down a set. It doesn't really matter if it bashes off door frames and stuff like that. Something like that. Well, you buy a flight case for it, don't you? It's not actually that heavy. It says on that it was 18 kilograms, I think I just read somewhere there, which might sound heavy for a guitar or something like that, but for the amp, I was not expecting it. I expect it to weigh more than that, because the orange weighs more than that, and the Carlton weighs way more than that. But I mean, I think, to be honest, at the time, 59, I'd imagine they originally were American. 25 watts is probably about as big a guitar amp as you got. It wasn't until later on, you know, when people started playing stadiums and they wanted Hendrix that wanted 100 watt. That was really all you would ever need to play along with any 50s rock and roll. I'm not sure. I think my whole idea of thinking that the reason the the knobs were upside down was so that you could stand behind the amp when you were playing. I don't think that's the case at all. I think it's right down to the fact that the valves sit on top of the. You can see it there. It's right to basically, if you imagine looking at that from there, it would be like a head. So the valves must stick up this way, which is why it's like that. So basically, you can make a head of it and have. At least that's what I'm thinking. Same what I was saying with the orange one, but the orange, my orange is front mounted rather than being top mounted. Top mounted, obviously, you must be able to get it a bit smaller because then some of the amp can go behind the speaker. But I one of the reasons I wasn't so keen on the Laney is the buttons on the top, so I can't see whether it's on or not. So I kept leaving it on, annoyingly. Whereas the orange and the Laney have a big light bulb on the front that I can see, rather than just kind of having to stand up and look over and see whether the amp's on or not. Also, if the amp's not on, I can lean over and turn it on rather than having to stand up and turn it on. But I mean, needless to say, it's like the amp. If it does it pass the? Could I use it in here and just have it as my only amp? Yep, it'd be no problem at all. Kind of knew that anyway. There's like that's kind of more of a. Like if you're talking about the cheapest guitar, when's the cheapest guitar worth it? If you're getting a guitar for £100, the way I look at it, if you could get it, if it sounds all right and you can play it, it doesn't stab you and everyone's in the right place, then that's good enough to, if I'm sitting there for, watching your house for a week. Basically, all I've got to do is, sit and drink Monster, eat and play guitars. If you provided I get one that's sort of in tune, we're fine. So you're getting above. And then you start getting to nice guitars. So I'm using my nicest one. This guitar is awful good. I could literally just, when you've got like an expensive guitar and an expensive amp, I could just sit here all day and just twiddle away, even without any of the distortion pedals or anything like that. I do have a reverb on. Reverb off. Get the tremolo back on again, I suppose. I think that the trick with all these time-based like delays, choruses and all that is to get it in time with what it is you're going to be playing, which I don't know what I'm going to be playing, which is maybe one of the reasons I'm not that into them. Reverb is a bit different, you just turn it on and it's fine. So I mean, it's taking the pedals brilliant. It's just I think it's when I use not valve amps, my pedal board reacts differently, which is just if they're all kind of like above a certain quality and valvey, then my pedal board seems to work for the way I do it. I don't think it doesn't really matter as long as it's a decent guitar. Didn't really work with like the wee 5-watt PV and the wee 5-watt Epiphone Granger one. They were too wee, not good enough. But these are all obviously in the right range. So I'm gonna have to. I don't know whether I'll continue using that during the week. It's fine. I mean, I could basically just substitute that in for the orange, just straight up. But I mean, it costs 3 times as much. So obviously I could. It's very nice. I do like it. It's actually had it disconnected. My pal reminded me it's a wee loan. It's just new. He seems to have bought himself quite a lot of new Christmas presents this year, but I think it was on a sale or something like that. Like was it £1,200 there? I think it was like it was only 800. Only 800. Wow. But I mean, to be honest, for £800, I would expect a really good amp. Or for £1,200, I would expect a really good amp, and it is. The name doesn't really mean anything to me. I had heard of Supro. I know David Bowie had a Supro guitar. They made sort of funny guitars, and they were just like a 60s amp brand. But it's a minefield I've never really gone down, because I'd imagine, I mean, this might be total rubbish, but I'd imagine they probably did cheap amps as well, maybe ones that weren't very good, but they had proper valvey ones, or they were probably really undesirable for many years because it doesn't have gain on it, so it doesn't have a master volume. So like the 80s, try to play Iron Maiden and you've got that, it's like, yes, totally you can if you've got distortion pedals, but you need those distortion pedals. Also, it doesn't look very metal, does it? You know, it's a bit more 50s classy looking. I can imagine some people sitting having something like that in their music room, where they have their, you know, a couple of PRSs and, like, you know, a 58 reissue Les Paul, and they play through an amp like that, and it's lovely. And they would have a pedal board plugged into it. So if you plug a pedal board into it, it'll do absolutely anything. So I would need some sort of distortion channel. The rat pedal would be fine. Rat pedal works out nice. It's amazing how used to reverb you get. Well, it's got a funny sound because that tremolo's on. This guitar is actually reminding me very much of my RGX, my RG just now, the bug one, with Seymour Duncan and Vader in it. Maybe the tremolo's something I'll... Why am I getting... I don't normally get noise through the rat pedal. The tremolo kind of strangles it a bit. Maybe I quite like it. I mean, it must have been a good thing for the amp to be such a feature. You know, as I said, it's obviously, it must have valves that run it as well, so it's quite an extra thing to have in an amp. So it's like one of those things that get, you know, when you've got like a single pickup guitar, like the Esquire or something like that, and it's like you will use that tone control just because you don't have anything else to mess about with. Something like this. I mean, this is a bad one because I was actually using the tone control earlier on. I think the first time I touched it, because it's got 6 sounds, so it's like it does everything. But the more, so a guitar like this and an amp like that, you're fine. That's why I was having no problem getting all those different sounds, because the amp's just got a tone and a volume. Literally a tone and a volume. But no, my point there was when you get like a single bucker shredding machine guitar and it's got a tremolo on it, even if it's just a Strat tremolo, because I've got a guitar like that, the West Tone Raider's a bit like that. All you've got is a volume and a trem, so you use the trem because you don't have anything else to use. You can't go into the neck pickup, you can't change it, so you just got to, I'll just use it because I've got it. Whereas that's what I think the tremolo, if I had this amp, it would be there just because it's the one thing, the one cheesy feature it's got. You know, it doesn't have, like, you know, reverb or a mid control or any of these things. Quite like it. It's funny with vibrato. approved, expensive. If you can find them and they're cheap enough, definitely. It's one of those things, you turn it on, it doesn't seem to do a bad sound. I've not even obviously tried running it up at full bung. It's just a 30 watt valve amp with a 1x12 speaker. I know, it might sound much better. I mean, it will sound much better. I'd love to even, it'd be great taking it into the studio or something like that, but you turn it on in the house, even if you do it and you don't have neighbours and it's not that, it's such a small room and there's things vibrating, it just, it's too much of a shock to the system. To actually run it up at the sort of volumes that it's been, let's be honest, designed to run at, which is playing along with a drum kit. But it would totally do me absolutely fine. I know my pal Ian who owns it's likes a bit of the down tuning and all that. Probably, I'd imagine, probably doesn't deal with that particularly well. I'd never thought of that. Maybe that's how one of the reasons I don't get on with the EMG pickups so much is not necessarily just because I don't use as much gain. It's because of the type of amp I like, which is a sort of oldie fashioned clean and you put a rat in. I don't know, it's just not the same. I haven't managed to fix the Carlton. It's really annoying because the reason I didn't use it before was because the two volume knobs were really, really crackly, so I totally stripped them down, put them back in it, and now when it's working, those two volume controls work great. I think I've bashed something or dislocated something. It's just like, it's almost like you've got to try and, with like a river trying to break through over the banks of a river or something like that. It's like, you can sort of hear it coming. If you hit it hard, you can hear it going, and then eventually it goes bang and comes on. It's really annoying because I'd really like that guitar fix because it's a transistor amp, so it's an entirely different thing again. This, to be honest, is slightly different from the amps I like, being the Sovtech, the Laney, the Orange, and the PV, all kind of ballpark-y. The PV's a little bit more, it's got more knobs on it, so it does more stuff than all the other ones do. Mind you, the wee Laney's got quite a lot on it. Looking at it, I need to clean the pots on it because I remember it being crunchy, so we've got like 2 channels. There's not really any use for me in here, but it'd be good for gigging. 2 drives, bright switch, bass, middle, treble, reverb and tone. That's quite a lot of knobs for a wee amp. So many knobs it doesn't have a standby switch because there's not enough room for one. Is the only reason I can think of that being there. Half an hour in. I kind of want to plug it in just to see what it sounds like, you know. Just I think there's a... I need to plug the speaker into it and all that. It's not a fair comparison to plug it into. I just wonder what it's going to sound like. The thing about having the... I'll talk about that in another video. This is all about the Supro and the Led Zeppelin. I was going to play my black Telecaster through it, but this guitar sounded better. When it's a Telecaster, it's lovely. Just that because it had, I don't know, it's a bit more jangly. It seemed to suit that. Yeah, maybe it's just... I suppose the more expensive the pickups, the more expensive the amp you put it through, you're more likely to notice. You'll notice that if you're playing like... when you've got like a weak guitar, maybe I don't know whether it's a Squire or something like that, and then you take it into the studio and play it through a Marshall stack, and suddenly it's like, oh, this sounded great in the house, and then suddenly now it's got no balls or something like that, whereas a lot of the ones I've got, it's like take them into the studio and it's like, oh, this is what it's actually meant to do, because they're all, you know, expensive, designed for stage guitars, and it's like when you're playing it up at full bung, the good stuff gets much, much better. Doesn't really matter how good you are or what, you know, how good your amps are, but when you're playing at actual volume, actually along with drums with a bass player, it's like, there we go, where you're meant to play loud. So if you've never been in a band, it's worth doing that just for the sake of going in and playing live and playing at proper volume where you can feel it as well as play it, and the guitar reacts as well because it's loud. So, you know, if I battered an E chord just now, ow. All the E strings that are in the room here would vibrate a little bit just because of sympathetic vibration. So basically if you do that when you're in the studio, hit a chunky E, your E string's sitting open and then the amp's playing an E, so it's whoa. Rock on, like and subscribe, catch you later.